Thank you. Well, good evening, everyone. I hear the collective groan when you say the person that developed the written content. Oh, right, okay. But actually, by way of background, I work in the Middle East. I've been there for 3 years, but before that, I was 6 years in South Sudan. That was mainly through the semi-autonomous period from 2006 right up to 2011. So one of my last days in South Sudan was in a church at midnight as the bells rang, and you thought every map in the world is out of date as of this second, because here's a new country. And the overwhelming feel in the room was not one of celebration so much as one of relief. You know, for 6 years, the North has thrown everything that they can at us. They haven't broken us, and now we're free, and now things are going to get better. And along with that sense of relief comes this sense of hope. Now, I was working for an aviation charity which provided humanitarian flights, 13-seater planes, flying a lot of you who worked in East Africa particularly will have flown in these Cessna Caravans, small aircraft. 2006, we're coming in after 25 years of civil war into a country which is swampy half the year. Of course there's a need for light aviation. But what was very sad was going back just last month, 5 years to the month after I left, just after independence. And if anything, I'd say there's a greater need right now for flight operations. And you know, there are some success stories. Elisa mentioned it, you know, building capacity. Some of the young guys I worked with straight after the war are now in mid-level management positions. And that's really encouraging to see that they've kept the same organization, the same job, 8, 9 years later, through all this chaos, keeping some stability. So there's some successes. Juba International Airport, working with a bunch of guys there who, they don't want to fight wars, they don't want to rip their country off, they want to bring up their kids, and a job gives them that opportunity. And there's some real success stories. Flying a group of 2 flights, group of 19 young ladies and boys out of an orphanage in Yei, which is a town 3 hours drive away from Juba. But you know, with that comes backstory. Why are you evacuating a town which is only 3 hours drive away by plane? 3 hours drive. You know, and what's the backstory here? Behind us in the picture, if you're observant, you see the Red Cross on the plane. The airport, this is your view going to work. Plane after plane after plane, light aircraft. Pretty much as far as you can see, this is how you travel to remote sites. So the sad reality is, there's been this massive breakdown of security. We have our maps, and this only shows 4 weeks, but within 4 weeks our flight operations would have no-go areas, there'd be a helicopter shot at in this area, there'd be pilot intimidation, there'd be soldiers demanding to get on a plane, and this only shows aviation-related stuff. If I put ground-related, this map would just be red. The UN, their own force constraints, are where they have to use armed convoys. Quite a lot of red on there, and then whenever you see red on a map in this context, it's not a good thing. So when we come to this is nothing to do with security, this is simply the access constraints, roads which are unusable because they're not all year roads. Yellow, you might want to go there, but you take a lot of stuff with you. Red is no go. So then what do we do? Well, we've got groups like Tearfund, who we've flown for 10 years, and they're based right in here, in the middle, in a little town. They're under rebel permission. The official government army has said you can go in, but we're not responsible for you. But there's a massive need for plumpy nuts, for building material, for all sorts of stuff, for clinic supplies. What do? I mean, you've got this situation where you've got incredibly cut off, incredibly insecure areas, physically cut off, and security-wise they're cut off. And the context in South Sudan, over the 6 years I was there, I saw so many people come through. And the primary recruiting drive for a humanitarian in South Sudan seemed to be they were willing to go. And that was it. It wasn't that they had 2 years of experience or they got this or that. They were willing to go. Because your average aid worker lasted 6 months. We had people coming from Iraq, coming from Afghanistan and leaving, saying it was too difficult. And that says it all. And into that situation, into a place like this that's cut off by at least a week if it rains on the airstrip, then you're throwing in people with no experience. And it gives them some great stories if they make it. But it's also, you know, it's bloody irresponsible, but that's what we do because they're the only ones willing to go. for many of my contemporaries, they do a 1-day or a 2-day UN training course. And then at the end of that, the trainer from the UN, he'd say, well, look, that's all good. You put up a photo of a landmine and say, that's a landmine, don't walk on it. And people are writing, landmine, don't walk on it. Anti-tank mine, and they're writing, anti-tank mine, don't drive on. And then he gets to the end of this 2-day course or 1-day course, and he says, well, the bottom line is, in South Sudan, the man with the gun is always right. If you're in a security situation, in a discussion, the bottom line is the man with the gun is always right. So no matter what you've been taught, this is a situation where headquarters say you do this in a security situation. Not only is the man with the gun always right, but everyone's got at least 2 guns, if not more. So they're always right, and a lot of people are always right, and these very inexperienced humanitarian workers are in situations completely cut off, physically, technologically, from their headquarters staff. What are they going to do? And as I was writing the content around this course, I thought it was well organised. We took the express learning needs of a number of NGOs who responded to the survey. I went to my experiences in Jordan, in Iraq, in the Philippines, and through the Balkans, as well as East Africa. And as I was writing, I was getting quite annoyed because I was thinking, why didn't I have something like this when I went out? I was the security focal point for over 100 NGOs at one point for about a year as a voluntary role. And I was learning a lot on the job, and it was very useful learning. But something like this kind of training would have been so valuable. I think the bottom line is humanitarian emergencies are going to outnumber skilled, available staff. So it's essential that good training's there. And so, any job, there's parts you like, parts you don't like, parts you don't believe in, and parts you really do believe in. And as I was writing this, I was really behind it because I thought people need this. They really need this training. I heard a comment recently, and somebody said, the days of the well-meaning amateur in relief work are over. I could not disagree more. I think if you look at the recent crisis through the Balkans and Greece, who's responding? It's Czech volunteers who met on Facebook. It's Dutch Boat Foundation volunteers who are figuring it out as they go along, and they only know each other because they're wearing the same vest. I mean, there's not a big institution behind that. And on top of that, you've got established agencies still sending very inexperienced workers into these tough locations. And when I first went in, I'd count myself in that category. I was just, I wasn't smart enough to lead. That's the only reason I was there for 6 years. It wasn't that I had a great deal of experience at the start. So I don't think we all need master's degrees in development, but I do think what we need easily accessible, relevant, and realistic training if we're going to do a good job. I was talking with somebody this last weekend, and they've been working in Greece, and they had no experience of working in disaster response, humanitarian response before that. And they spoke really positively about some 2-day training that Red Arc had been doing in Greece. And it really confirmed to me how much you can learn in a short spell of time with the right training, but also how much difference it makes to make sure that people do have at least that basic training before they're going in. So it's not just a case of, well, the man with the gun is always right. They are always right, but you should have the experience to be able to go beyond that as well. And I think that's what some of this video-based training does, is it puts you in the driving seat in making that decision, not having half an hour to consult a book or to make a phone call to headquarters, but you make that decision. And hopefully, you make a mistake, well, no problem, because you can go back and review it. Talk to your peers, talk to people in the same agency and say, what would you have done in this situation? But for places like South Sudan, like Syria, just talking with Kate, a real passion to go back to Syria if possible, and probably parts of Syria will open up as we go through the years, but it won't be a complete opening of the country. And then how do you work with team members in lots of different pockets of accessible areas? I think this remote security management is essential. And my closing line will be, I just wish we had it 10 years ago. So I hope it's useful to you. Thank you.